Just a week after I moved into my new lakeside home, I realized living beside an HOA was going to be interesting. I had barely finished unpacking when 3 HOA board members marched across my backyard like they were entering enemy territory. No greetings, no introductions, just a stern demand. You can't block access to the lake. The HOA owns all lake rights. I blinked at them, confused, because the block they were talking about was just a temporary rope I'd set up while moving furniture. But before I could even explain, they started lecturing me about community rules, shared water privileges, and how I must comply immediately. They acted like I had stolen their national treasure. I calmly told them I'd check my deed first, just to be sure, but they snorted and insisted the HOA controls everything on this shoreline. That's when I knew something was off, because before buying the property, my lawyer told me something interesting about this lake, something the HOA clearly didn't know. So I went inside, grabbed the folder, and returned while they stood there with crossed arms and impatient sighs. I handed them the survey documents. Their expressions slowly shifted from confidence to confusion, to panic. The lake, yes, the entire lake itself, was privately owned. By me. Turns out decades ago, the previous owner bought the lake rights, but never bothered dealing with the HOA and the docks the HOA had been using for years, also on my property, which meant I had legal control over them. When I gently mentioned this, one board member turned pale. Another tried to argue it was impossible because the HOA always used the docks. I shrugged and pointed again to the clearly marked boundaries on the official documents. Silence. Pure, stunned silence. But they weren't giving up that easily. 2 days later, the HOA held an emergency meeting about me, apparently, and tried to issue a violation claiming I was impeding community access. So I responded by installing new signs along the shoreline stating, "Private lake, owner access only, unauthorized docking prohibited." Within hours, my phone blew up with angry messages, thinly veiled threats, and even a note on my door demanding I return community property. The boldness would have been funny if it wasn't so ridiculous. So I invited the entire board over, again for a clarification meeting. When they arrived, all puffed up and ready to argue, I calmly handed them a cease and desist drafted by my attorney. And just to make things crystal clear, I informed them that continuing to use my docks without permission would result in legal action and hefty fines. The meltdown that followed was legendary. They started blaming each other, questioning old presidents, digging through years of HOA archives trying to find any loophole. Nothing helped. They had built their entire authority on assumptions, not facts. By the following week, the board president sheepishly returned,